update for July 6, 2022, day 133 of the war, end of the date update. So let's just do, as always, strategic general issues first, and then we're going to do walks through the front line. So first, we would like to mention that we're finally seeing some kind of strategy from Ukrainian command in terms of addressing the problem of Russian artillery. We may not think that that's the most efficient approach, but the approach is hitting Russian ammunition depots, specifically artillery shells depots in the Russian rear, and also hitting fuel depots. It probably will sort of help temporarily to sort of hold the advance and pressure, but in the long run, it's probably not going to address the problem for the simple reason is because it's relatively easy to replace ammunition. Russia can bring it more. They have plenty of shells. They have plenty of fuel, so that's not going to be a problem for the Russian army. Their more sort of weaker link is actually their cannons, artillery cannons themselves, and the crews. Because that's what there is a shortage of, and specifically crews, even more so because as a part of artillery crew, you need certain level of knowledge, you need sort of a certain level of intelligence, and it takes time to prepare quality artillery crew members. So it's sort of kind of like a bottleneck in a way. So if you hit in a bottleneck, that creates more problems down the road. Nevertheless, I think Ukrainian command decided to sort of attempting to let's say reach the quick goals and quick results, and probably that's driven more by that. We're not sure if that's really going to bring results. Also, at the same time, there's this is happening. This attacks by Ukrainian forces. At the same time, Russian forces are regrouping, and they sort of officially on break after capture of Lysychansk and Svitlodarsk. So they regrouping, refitting. They probably receiving replenishment of their new contract soldiers, and that's sort of so for some time there is probably going to be slow action on the front line. There are some attacks, but they definitely not the same intensity as they used to be. So plus Ukrainian attacks against this logistical supply points also slows everything down on the Russian side. That's in terms of sort of some kind of strategy by Ukrainian command that's trying to address this strategic problem of Russian artillery. Now, related to Ukrainian command, we mentioned about the spat between Ukrainian general staff, head of general staff, and Ukrainian president. So it was resolved in sort of polite way without sort of true spat. It was kind of sort of more disagreement, and so the order by Ukrainian general staff that doesn't allow men to leave their regions was rescinded, and so now sort of things return to where they were before. That's clearly showing difference in the vision how to wage the war between Ukrainian general staff and the Ukrainian president and forces that sort of he's representing, which much more mild, much less sort of aggressive, and so on. Now let's switch to more international things. We discussed Kazakhstan and specifically their export of crude oil through Russia. And if you remember, you watched yesterday's issue, you remember that Russia has blocked for 30 days export of Kazakh crude oil through the port of Novorossiysk. Now it's actually there was explosion on the largest Kazakh how called oil field, oil well, so which puts it out of action for some time. We don't know for how long. As Russian propagandist said, coincidence? I don't think so. So no, there's no proof, but it definitely looks very, very suspicious and strange, to say the least. And sort of related to this, it looks like a Kazakh president wants to enforce sanctions against Russia that are sort of announced by the West. So it's not internal, it's not sanctions by Kazakhstan. It's just they're gonna enforce the sanctions or international West sanctions against Russia. So this might be related to this, and so it sort of remains to be seen how it's all gonna get resolved there. Then there's also news on Russia and Norway and Spitsbergen island that we discussed. So it looks like Norway decided to allow Russia to supply their sort of employees, workers on Spitsbergen, and so sounds like that problem resolved for now. But then this is more just kind of curiosity saying. So the speaker or head of Russian parliament, lower chamber of the Russian parliament today said that effectively the meaning of it is that the US should not forget that Alaska belongs to Russia, something along those lines. So it's definitely really the tone gets really more and more aggressive by day. Now let's switch to the Frontline. As always, we're gonna do it in clockwise fashion, starting from the very north. There is definitely increasing intensity of artillery shelling here along the state border. Also, there were actually shooting and some deaths of some Russian border guards. That at least the Russian side, that's what they claim. So there's definitely increase in sort of adverse activity on both sides, and that level increased and remains at elevated level. Now let's move to Kharkiv. Situation here is more or less the same. Russian forces continue to put pressure, trying to capture this village Sosnivka here towards the west of Kazakhstan, without success so far. Otherwise, things more or less stable here. Now let's move to Izyum bridgehead, and as always, the same places of attack. Russian troops trying to capture these villages of Krasnopilya and Dolina to continue their advance towards Slavyansk, but so far they didn't have any success. Now let's move to Lysychansk area. Let's see what's going on there. Things here so far more or less stable. Russian troops continuing probing attacks towards this village here. We don't see it, but there's village here, Grigorievka. Then they attempting to capture Verkhnyo-Kamensk, and then it's unclear actually. They're attempting to capture this village Spirna. They claim that they did capture it. Ukrainian sources say that that it's being largely controlled by Ukrainian side. It's we still don't have very clear picture on whether this village was captured or not yet. So this essentially, but however, based on what we're seeing, the pressure has definitely subsided in this area. We're pretty sure that the Russian troops will renew once they refit, once they receive new reinforcements. All those consolidated units that we discussed, how they rebuild their troops. The attack will be renewed to sort of continue the drive to capture eventually Kramatorsk and Slavyansk. Those are sort of long-term goals. The most immediate goal is actually this town Bakhmut here. However, the long-term goal is to capture Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. So that would be sort of closing of the next phase of this war. Let's put this way, because let's actually look. Let's go back. So as you can see, we now call this whole area like North Donbass. So essentially, the goal is to squeeze Ukrainian army from this North Donbass, and effectively maybe later try to capture this kind of like a western portion of the Donbass region that's still being controlled by Ukrainian troops. So that's kind of like really long-term goal. Like sort of more immediate is to capture this North Donbass here. Now let's see what's going on straight east of Bakhmut. Here there are our typical areas of attack by Russian troops. They're attempting to capture village Vershina. Then they're attempting to capture this power plant here, and then also village Novoluhansk, like with small town, really tiny towns, Novoluhansk. So all three attacks were without success. And of note is that at this point, it looks like Russian troops don't even try to accomplish encirclement here. They're just simply trying to squeeze out Ukrainian troops from this whole area. Now let's move down south. Let's see what's going on west of Donetsk. So here situation is the same. Just exchange of artillery fire, small-scale skirmishes, nothing really of note here. But as explained before, everything is on pause here. Now let's move to Zaporizhia front line. Let's start moving west. Situation here is identical to situation west of Donetsk. Here everything is on pause. Artillery shelling, small scale skirmishes, nothing really major going on here. Now let's move to Kherson bridgehead, our last sort of destination. Here situation is identical to what's going on west of Donetsk. And Zaporizhia front line, everything the same, just positional defenses, artillery shelling, small scale skirmishes. Thanks for watching, and until tomorrow, bye bye.